Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Brian Dawson. I'd like to personally thank everyone who has liked, shared, subscribed to my channel. I'm growing rapidly and I couldn't do it without your success. The goal is to reach monetization and I am really close, so thank you all. Now, for this video, we're going to talk about unjust laws in the United States and how millions of people are affected by this daily. So tell me what you think, and as always, I give my commentary at the end.
In today's episode of That Doesn't Sound Fair, we're going to talk about the fact that when the government your family may have no recourse to file a wrongful death claim. Or if they can file a claim, their ability to get damages might be significantly limited.
There are a lot of reasons why child support is unfair. I think there's a lot of things that could be done to make it more equitable. Number one is if we fix the way custody was done.
Sometimes even when the laws are on the books and they say that you shouldn't favor the mother or the father, the mothers do get favored. I just have to tell you about that. You can change the law, but it takes longer to change all the judges.
The way they're drafted, if they're properly applied, are fair. That's what they're meant to be. But I think the problem is the way they are applied by the judges ends up being so subjective and there's so much discretion there that it can turn out to be unfair.
Support are only paying what the judge tells them to pay. So they are not helping cover the cost of childcare the single mom is paying for just so she could put her child in childcare so that she can work to pay for that childcare. And best believe those men are not paying for food for the child weekly, are not buying new clothes for the child, are not buying new shoes for the child. They're only sending a set amount that woman has to deal with.
Young kids. It is unlawful for an employer to have this stereotype belief that because you have to take care of young kids, that you won't be able to do your job effectively.
This is one of the worst laws I've ever come across. In New Jersey, the state allows car insurance companies to sell you car insurance policies that prohibit your ability to sue for injuries related to physical and emotional damages.
Let's say you like to smoke a little marijuana. There are a lot of people out there who do. But the fact is that in Texas, marijuana is still illegal. Now, in certain metro areas like Harris County, Houston, they're not really prosecuting it as much as they used to, but it's still illegal. A cop can pull you over and arrest you for it.
They just passed a law that will allow local police officers to literally stop people based on the color of your skin. If they don't have lawful papers to be here in the country, they're calling immigration, putting them in jail, getting them deported.
Breaking news, the Supreme Court has just issued yet another dystopian ruling, completely undermining the Fourth Amendment. The Supreme Court has ruled that Border Patrol agents can make warrantless arrests at homes anytime within 100 miles of the U.S. border. While the Fourth Amendment guarantees a right to privacy and a right to protection from illegal search and seizure, the Supreme Court said, too bad. Instead, ruling 6-3, the right-wing Supreme Court said the Fourth Amendment simply does not apply within 100 miles of the United States. That means that for anyone living in that yellow space, which is 200 million of America's 330 million people, Border Patrol can barge in at any time of day or night without a warrant, without any cause, without any suspicion.
Mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, has filed a lawsuit against 17 bus companies stating that they violated state law for transporting 33,000 migrants into his city. The lawsuit claims that it's part of Governor Greg Abbott's plan to kick out migrants and send them to cities that are run by Democratic officials. New York City is seeking $708 million in damages. The lawsuit brings out a 19th century New York state law that requires bus operators to cover the expenses of needy individuals likely to receive government assistance. He's also accusing Governor Abbott of using migrants as a political pawn, and he's trying to set examples so that this doesn't happen.
This is one of the more terrifying stories in medicine that I've seen in a long time, and not a lot of people are talking about it. In the recent Food and Drug Cosmetic Act amendment that was in the omnibus spending bill passed by Congress, the FDA has now been granted permission to limit the use of off-label medications for certain conditions. Let me explain what this means. When a new drug is approved, it's approved for a specific indication, but in the past it's always been up to the discretion of the doctor and their patient with that relationship to determine if that drug could be safely used for other things. This is what's termed off-label use of a medication, and oftentimes doctors are able to prescribe things that work really well for conditions, and we do it all the time in dermatology where we prescribe a cream that maybe it was approved for dermatitis, but we use it in psoriasis because it works really well. So this would give the FDA power to tell doctors that they can't prescribe certain medications for off-label uses, and this would happen if a pharmaceutical company has a drug that can treat something and they don't want doctors to use alternatives. They want to make the money off of the brand name medication. This isn't happening right now in this situation, but here's a scenario. I could give a patient a topical steroid to treat alopecia areata, or hair loss on the scalp. It works well, and in small cases, it's going to be quite effective most of the time. However, there's a new drug on the market that is approved to treat alopecia areata, and it's in this class of medications called JAK inhibitors. It's a pill you take, but you have to be careful who you use it with because it does have the potential for certain side effects, some of them quite serious. So if the pharmaceutical companies only wanted people to use their drug, they could, through the FDA, say dermatologists are no longer able to prescribe steroids to use for alopecia. They have to use this drug with the potential of a lot more toxicity. This article is in the Wall Street Journal if you want to read the whole thing, but this is concerning. It interferes with the doctor-patient relationship, and you should be concerned about this. Ultimately, this will raise the cost of healthcare. It lines the pockets of insurance and pharmaceutical companies and pharmacy benefit managers and hurts patients, hurts doctors.
Many Americans are facing injustices every day. And one major injustice that the American people are facing is in regard to healthcare. Babies, children, and adults, as well as the elderly, fall victim to this healthcare system. When laws are passed, laws should always be passed to make sure that those who need the most constructive help receive it. But it seems as though that the laws that are passed are only passed to further victimize people in this system. Unless you're on the profiting side of it, you're never going to understand what it's like when your loved one or you yourself as the individual is sick and need medical attention. But in order to get the medical attention, you have to pay so much money that more than likely you don't even have. Then people say, well, you need insurance and all of these things, but the insurance companies, the middlemen, they're all profiting off of the sick. The video clip that just played regarding how the FDA approved that they have to basically give patients, doctors have to give patients name brand medication. Now, if you are of a certain age, you would know that many medications have side effects, and some of these side effects are good. But they're saying that if one medication is designed for this, but the side effect can treat another type of illness, then they can no longer prescribe that medication. Even if it helps, they have to prescribe the name brand medication, which essentially is going to cost more, right? And is going to further force consumers to pay for medications. And they're going to even have even more medications because they're going to need a medication for this, a medication for that, a medication for something else. And it seems as though they don't care about the people. And due to the breakdown of the family, it places mother and father at odds with one another. So in regards to the well-being of the children. I think that all children should always be provided for, because they're innocent and they did not ask to be here. However, I do think that the system pits man and woman against one another, and as a result, the entire family structure suffers. So yes, mothers need sustenance for their children. And at the same time, I think a lot of fathers feel powerless in this system because they are willing to provide for their child, but it's almost as though they're being robbed at gunpoint and they're unable to have a say so in how they want to raise their children. Whatever we do, we must do it to promote justice for everyone. That whoever needs the most help receive it. But I think that this type of thinking creates controversy because many Americans, they look at the picture and say that they are paying into the system, but they are struggling in the country that they're paying into. And the news media and outlets show us migrants coming to the country and seemingly getting benefits that they did not work and pay for. So on one hand, one would say, well, if these migrants are fleeing war-torn areas and their countries are destabilized, then the just act would be to give them food, shelter, housing, and security. But on the other hand, Americans who are here, homeless, or can't afford rent, can't afford a place to stay, many of them were thinking the same thing, that the just thing would be to give them the resources that you're giving elsewhere. And I think that the powers that be do this to pin different groups against one another, to create division. And I think that ultimately the people who paid into the system should receive their equitable help first, because they are the ones that the money and the resources are taken from. However, I do think that there is a space after the citizens are taken care of, that whatever left over can be given to make sure that the children of the migrants and innocent people who do deserve justice shall get it. But I also think that they should get justice from the country and the state that they left. But all of this would only make sense if we live in a fair and just world, which we don't. The world is not a fair place. The world is a very unforgiving place. So I have to keep that in mind. I'm interested to hear what you all think about this topic.